Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Antiheroes Anonymous Campaign 2 Season 1 recap video. In this video, we're going to get you all caught up on everything that happened in Antiheroes Anonymous Campaign 2 Season 1. And I'm mostly going to let my players do the storytelling to tell you what happened, but I'll jump in here and there to fill in some details. So, without further ado, let's dive right on in.
So we start off, the Silver Seekers, which is the name of our party, were hired to investigate the shipment that came in on a ship called the Flying Ray.
And so Embers kept watch while Elwyn distracted the dockhand, and Rook and Tuppence snuck into the ship, where they discovered numerous cages with monstrosities inside of them that had apparently been smuggled into the city on this ship.
And within a small amount of time, everyone groups together again, and they review notes, and they kind of share, okay, here's what's going on. Okay, well, this is kind of weird. There's a bunch of weird creatures. And so they're like, well, we did our job. Let's go back to the mill house. And the mill house is basically an inn that every NPC is invited to stay at.
And the staff are all sitting outside. And the owner, Nora Froththinker, tells us, we're having a little bit of a doppel rat infestation inside. They're kind of a mess.
We fought off some doppel rats. Embers did a pretty good job. I think she fought off a few rats herself. I don't think she took a scratch in that whole battle.
And we're like getting all the rats and stuff. And Rook was like, pew, 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 hand crossbow. I got bit. And then, there's the real one in the cellar. And then he's like, Tasha's cold caustic brew.
Elwyn gets bitten by one at some point, and it gets infected, and it's gross. And it's a whole thing because Elwyn is a little squeamish around blood, and so she just hates everything.
So after that, Nora, the owner of the mill house, invited her friend Megan over to look after people's wounds and make sure that the doppel rat sickness didn't spread too far. So when Megan came, Embers realized that she knew Megan, or at least she recognized Megan's holy symbols. And Megan definitely recognized her, and there was this kind of awkward coolness between Megan and Embers for a little bit.
And so then the party did some investigations around the mill house and discovered a cage in the cellar, which they recognized to be similar to the ones they encountered on the boat. And it was placed in a small location, so they realized that only a small creature could have put this cage where it was, which turned their suspicions to Tess, one of the kobold workers at the mill house.
That was about the time that Tess escaped from the mill house and tried to run away.
And she like climbed down the mill part of the mill house. And then we're like, that ain't right. And we like saw her like jumping off and like running down the street.
Fortunately, the group, especially Embers, was faster than her.
Well, Embers just like just a jet engine tabaxi, and then like muscle woman Tuppence, basically suplexed Tess
and managed to get more information about what was going on out of her.
She says that her friend Molo, a kobold who lives in the dens, asked her to put it there, and she did because they're friends.
After the test thing, I think what happened next was that Torin came in.
Torin wound up to be extremely proud, loud, and just wow.
Torin had hired us to investigate the ships, and we reported into Torin. He said he would continue to pay us for more information about about what was going on with the cages and the monsters.
He says that he has been kind of doing his own looking into the group known as the Dragon Tooth Brotherhood, who kind of are a gang in Port Brisenshroud that usually kind of work in the background, but they are connected to this kind of smuggling operation, which seems to be a little bit out of their wheelhouse.
After meeting with Mr. Torin Brenworm, the Seekers spend a night resting and relaxing at the mill house. Tuppence has a strange incident with her mother's pan flute, Embers practices with her martial arts manual from her time in prison. Elwyn has an encounter with her patron, a mysterious figure known as the Masked Lady, and Rook spent some time tinkering with his various magical devices.
So then we went looking off from Molo. We went to the dens, the kobold settlement within Port Horizon Shroud.
So the dens is a pretty cool place. They have the fun pile. Apparently there's a bunch of traps, and there's a bunch of other kobold shenanigans going on. The fun pile's pretty cool, has a bunch of junk on it. Pretty great.
And we run into some other kobolds, and we intimidate some of them, and eventually find Molo in the tunnels.
But yeah, so after that altercation in the Warrens, we talked to Molo. Molo gave us a few more details about the Dragon Tooth Brotherhood, including what they're up to, or rather, what Molo knew, which wasn't much.
But basically, that the Brotherhood has this big plan to restore power to the dragons. Which, you know, being a kobold, he's all for it. He loves dragons. He thinks they're great. He also gives us a couple of names. Smolder, not Scorch. Smolder, who is a fire genasi, who is a member of the Brotherhood. And we actually witnessed him helping unload the flying ray. And also the name of the governor, who is Nyasa. She is somehow involved in this plan, presumably a target, maybe. At that point, we had no idea. But the plan was for the animals was to distract the wardens so that the Brotherhood could steal something from a caravan.
So, of course, Molo was invited to stay at the mill house, not only to protect him, because of the information he provided for us, but because it was difficult to part ways with him. Now he makes sure to have the gang's favorite table reserved anytime they'd like a meal.
We were going to go and let Torin know about what we found out from Molo.
We found Torin around this time, unconscious, knocked out in an alleyway, and he was poisoned, and he was like on his last legs. He got ambushed by a group of Dragon Tooth Brotherhood.
We ended up bringing him to the Brandyman Church so that Megan could help him.
And in the morning, we got the story out of him, which was that he had been ambushed in an alley by a snake-like lady who closed in on him with a few members of the Brotherhood and then delivered a poison, I think it was a poison dagger, or maybe a poison blow. Maybe it was a poison blow dart, something like that.
And we collected another NPC and asked Torin to come to the mill house with us for his own safety.
And so, yeah, that's just a normal thing that happens. So yeah, he of course he stayed at the Mills house with us because, like I said.
It's at this point that Rook receives a package from an unknown shadowy benefactor whose name Nora is unable to catch when the package is delivered. And when Rook opens the package, he discovers that inside there's a variety of potions as well as this strange metallic liquid, or this liquid metal rather, with very unique and odd properties. Later that night, Tuppence and Rook both have terrible nightmares. Tuppence has a dream about her home in flames, an event from her past that she does not have fond memories of. And Rook has a conversation with a shadowy version of himself in this liminal space, expressing doubts about the trustworthiness of the Silver Seekers and other such things. And Rook would come to know this shadowy figure in his mind as Nyadon.
And then we decide to go follow up on another job offer that we had gotten from Malls involving an auction house and a theft. And we think there might be some kind of connection because Molo told us that the Brotherhood stole weapons to prepare for this heist on this caravan.
So we went over to the to the highest bid, where Embers met Braca, Squall's second in command. So she was kind of useless during the investigation phase, just kind of staring at Braca for a lot of it and flirting ineptly with the orcish woman.
So he gave us a lot of good information about, here's the item, I really need it. He was like really shifty about it, and everyone was like, why are you, like, can't you just tell us?
He has a reputation to protect, and the information is very sensitive and all that nonsense. But he basically is like, okay, well, it's stored in this leather-bound case, and it was stolen, and I need you to find out what happened. So, as a reward, he offers us a property deed for a keep in Amberhearth, which is the city to the north.
But the Seekers discovered that a Yuan-Ti woman, using another blasted snake, was behind the theft.
And this snake is what ultimately stole the briefcase.
One of the shipping agents at the highest bid told us to look for a warehouse with an owlbear mark on it.
We end up finding the warehouse that the Dragontooth Brotherhood uses to store their stuff. And we swing by the mill house and pick up Torin.
I think around this point, Rook was getting a bit paranoid because he was like, I think someone's following me. That might have been now or later. Anyways, I'm pretty sure. I think this is one of the first instances, or if it was like on the way there, or is like after the warehouse thing. Anyways, so they get to the warehouse.
Tried to be sneaky about it, which we were trying to climb up the side and go down the chimney, because Tuppence found that the chimney was accessible. So she is pretty loud, scrambling up the side of this building, and then Torin is also extremely loud. So we definitely alert the guards that people are trying to sneak in.
And someone had to be like, a sleep spell, and they casted sleep, and the guards fell on the ground. And then we had a little bit of time before they woke up, and we could like make our way up there, try and cover up our tracks, even though they know that we're there now, and then get in the chimney. And so we got into the room, the office room. That's part of the warehouse.
We do find the briefcase, which was being guarded by that snake that had a lot of like many mage hands. And we also found, I think Rook found a journal under a false bottom in a drawer in the desk in the room that we were in, which turns out to be very important.
And came away with a case containing 4 of the 6 capsules that Squall was hoping for.
So they surrender, and then so we have like, I don't know, 6 cultists or something, and Torin later trails them off to the warden office or something to put in jail or whatever. So
once the danger was past, Elwyn and Tuppence, Tuppence went, and Elwyn summoned a wild familiar spider and sent the spider with Tuppence, and they went to go and just check out the warehouse. We found that it was mostly full of more of these cages like we'd found on the ship, and a lot of them definitely still had creatures in them. Among them was a cage holding a kobold whose name was Turka. She was actually the governor's spy. So we talked to her for a bit and we set her free.
But around then, he also realizes he has someone who's like sharing his body and his mind. So they have a meeting of the minds, meeting of his mind, and his name later they find out is Nihedon. And so this voice in his head is like talking to him like, hey, do you want me to help? He's like, hey, I can help you with what you're doing. And so Rook's trying to like read this notebook, and he's like, it's in Draconic, I can't read Draconic. And he's like, I can help you read Draconic. And so Rook's like, dang it, nobody knows how to read Draconic, so I don't. He's like, fine, like, let's see what you can do, Mr. Scary Headman. And so Nihedon's like, okay, poof, and so it shall be, you can speak Draconic. And so Rook's like, oh, wow. So he reads the notebook and he starts like actually deciphering it.
And so with the help of the creepy voice in Rook's head, the party is able to decipher the journal and gain details of the Dragontooth Brotherhood's plot, which is that they intend to strike at a caravan coming south from Ardelir to Port Horizon Shroud, bearing a clutch of actual dragon eggs, which are then meant to be shipped from Horizon Shroud up to the nation's capital. The party also discovers the exact time and place of the intended attack, as well as the strange fact that one of the ringleaders, this UNT woman Kashura, is not actually a member of the Dragontooth Brotherhood, but actually reports to some other sinister entities. And finally, they learn that the Governor Nyasa's involvement in the plan is that the Dragontooth Brotherhood perceives her as a threat and has procured weapons in case she should attempt to prevent them in their attack. And so with all of that in mind, the party returns to the mill house for a nice rest, and in the morning, they are awakened by a knocking sound on the window.
And it's a messenger drake with an invitation for the Silver Seekers to go and speak with Governor Nyasa.
So everything seemed to be going our way. We took what we got to the governor and sat in on a kind of a council with the governor's people, where Warden Commander, I think Nathaniel Locke was his name, seemed to be acting kind of suspicious and sketchy, which Ember's noticed right away because she's always on the lookout for when the cops are acting weird.
And then we went to like a small waiting room, and Embers and Tuppence decided, hey, we're gonna follow this Nathaniel Locke guy because he's a little suspicious.
They went off to the warden headquarters, the Imperial Wardens, and kind of staked out and surveilled Nathaniel Locke in a meeting with some of his upper brass, where they learned that Locke and some of his highest-ranking people were being currently blackmailed by the Dragontooth Brotherhood, which is what kind of allowed things to progress as far as they had and become as bad as they did.
Elwyn and Rook stay behind. We have a little bit of a chat about things, and we decide Elwyn has the ability to try and locate objects with magic. So she wanted to try and see if Smolder was nearby with the dragon's breath.
We were outside, like walking around, I think looking for a carriage or something, and then we were about to get ambushed and potentially stabbed by 2 or so Dragontooth Brotherhood cultists. And then the Night Mantis saved us. Night Mantis is the person that has been following Rook on the rooftops that he's been worried about, and she shot these guys and killed them and saved, well, potentially, but saved Elwyn and Rook from this attack. So she's like super badass, and everybody loves her, and she's great.
She saved us and basically ran away.
They took all this stuff to Nyasa.
And then she asks the Silver Seekers for our help, either with the attack on the city or with the attack on the caravan.
So the Seekers decided to aid the caravan since the governor had the wardens for protection.
Elwyn spends that evening alone in her room because she's still very shaken by the events of the day. And she is visited by the Masked Lady again, who, you know, they have a conversation about secrets and lies and trust.
Rook decides to sort of sneak out. Didn't realize he was also followed by Elwyn, who turned herself into a cat and followed him. And tries to and succeeds in calling down Night Mantis to have a conversation and get to know Night Mantis and what she's about. But instead she's like, I'll defend you while I'm here. You know, I wasn't coming here to see you, blah blah blah. I'm cool Night Mantis and I have my own mission, and at that point Rook also changes. He shows his changeling nature briefly to convince Night Mantis that who he actually is, and Elwyn sees that, and that's kind of a big deal.
So that happens. But there's no time to talk about it because the next morning is the attack on the city, and we have to rush to the gates of the city.
So we headed north with the company of a few Imperial Wardens at our back.
We find the bodies of the Wyvern Knights who had been dispatched to warn the caravan.
They know we're coming, so they're not gonna be here. And then we're like, And then we left, and we're like, we gotta just catch up to that caravan, and maybe we can get there before they do, and we can have them turn around and go back into a fortification, and we'll be good.
Turns out that was the right idea, because we caught up to the caravan right as Kashura was launching her attack. And she had these people on griffin back with these giant hooks that they were trying to like hook into the caravan to pull it up.
And all heck breaks loose. There are spells flying everywhere, and part of the group is flying everywhere. Tuppy really loves teaming up with Embers.
And then Ember's like, oh no, watch this, I'm super cool. And then she just like climbs up the chain and she starts like punching out, her and Tuppence just like punching out all the Griffin Riders like one by one. And Rick's like, all right, cool. So like that's just like jumping from like Griffin to Griffin. I'm like, what? Super cool.
Once that plan A had been completely foiled, Kashura was forced to rely on plan B, tried stealing the eggs herself, which then didn't get very far, between the group of us just focusing all our fire on her.
When the dust settled, the Yuan-Ti woman named Kashura let it be known that she's not really working for the Brotherhood after all. She's just using them on behalf of another sinister organization called the League of Terrors. Dun, dun, dun.
And in the end, she has a tattoo that shifts on her body to her chest, and it speaks to us, and it says basically, we are the horrors that haunt your past, the League of Terrors. And she disappears as the tattoo spreads and covers her whole body.
So that was a little bit of a disappointment for Embers, at least. But on the bright side, we did get all the eggs back. We completely foiled the Brotherhood plot, and we returned to Port Horizon Drive victorious.
And with that, the Silver Seekers talk about their next steps, ultimately deciding that they want to go north to visit their new keep in Amberhearth. So they have a little bit of time in Port Horizon Shroud to prepare and rest a little bit, during which they meet with Governor Nyasa and Legate Kalea Birdcrusher and receive a reward for helping the city. They also meet with Squall to obtain the actual deed to the keep in Amberhearth. They then kind of split up and do their own things for a little while. Embers has a sort of interesting date with Braca, as well as convinces Torin to quit his job as an Imperial Warden and come with them north to Amberhearth. Tuppence plays a lot of gigs and has this strange brief encounter with another Fey bard. She also gains a meaningful lead in the incident that brought her to the material plane. And Rook and Elwyn have a lot of time sort of to themselves to talk about everything that happened and kind of delve more into each other's pasts and, sharing their secrets with each other. And that is everything that happened in Antiheroes Anonymous Campaign 2 Season 1. So, hope you enjoyed this recap video, and we hope to see you back for Season 2. It's going to be good. Bye!